Okay, drop a 1 if you can hear me, please, in the chat. As you can see, we are in the new studio today. It is about 75% complete. Still got a lot of work to do. Still got a lot to sort out, but we're in at least. So I thought I'd do today's video in the new studio. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Just drop a 1 in the chat, please. And we should get started in, yep, great. Everybody can hear me, and just about everybody is in the stream. Another 10 seconds and we'll get started here. So today we are going to talk about a lot of stuff actually, because there's a lot of things that are changing right now. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Especially in the Western nations and what's going on. We've seen a huge amount of news actually, far too much for me to cover in this stream that's come out in the last 48 hours and over the weekend, but a lot of changes going on right now. But the main one we're going to focus on is what's just been announced with Ukraine, but we'll also talk about Venezuela and Guyana. We have had a new announcement from the UK government as well over migration, which personally I don't think it's going to change anything. I think actually it could even make things worse, which is counterintuitive, so bear with me and I'll explain why. But depending on how much time we've got in the stream, we will go through everything. Please let me know where you are watching from today as well. So let's begin with the first article then, and let me know as we go through in the chat and the comments if everything works okay, because this is a very complex setup we've got here, and I've cabled most of it and all the lights and cameras and everything else, but there may be a few snags, there may be sound issues, but we will get there. This is the test video today. So we're going to begin with the first article then, and this is from the FT, and this was just announced by the White House. So what they are talking about now is that funding for Ukraine is set to run out by the end of the year. Now it's interesting because this is one of the forecasts I made back in February. In fact, not just back in February of 2022, but if you'll recall in December of 2021, I made a video when no one was really talking about the Russian troop buildup on the border. And I talked about the migration crisis with Poland. And of course, I covered all that footage with the fences being destroyed and everything else. And I said, that to me seems a bit of a distraction, because the biggest issue that I see is that there's tons of Russian troops building up on the Ukraine border. Why is no one really talking about this? And then, one of the things I was thinking was maybe something might kick off there. But then 2 or 3 months goes by, nothing happened, and I stopped talking about it, and then it all kicked off. But one of the things I talked about at the time was, even if we see all this funding going from Western nations, it will only last so long, because it's the citizens, the people will get fed up with a lot of it and say, hold on, I can't pay my energy bill here, my food inflation, my food bill has doubled, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, my standard of living is dropping in a time when tech is increasing our standard of living. So we're sort of balancing here. So we talked about all these things before, and it looks now as though this may be coming to an end, this funding, although this is predominantly US, and I think the EU may pick up some of the slack here. But this is what the US has said then, the White House Budget Director, Shalanda Young. She has said then that there's no magic. Hold on, we'll get to that in a second. So they've issued a blunt warning that the US is set to run out of funds to Ukraine by the end of the year, saying that a failure by Congress to approve new support would kneecap Kiev. Now, whether or not they are actually saying they're going to cut funding, they want to cut funding, the public doesn't support it in, not just US, but a lot of European countries, or whether they are specifically talking here that this is more of a political move with Republicans, Democrats. I think we're still waiting to fully see that, but that could be something that's going on here. The FT and some of the other media may be running with this story in a way that doesn't quite represent it. So what she has said then in a letter to congressional leaders on Monday represented the most specific assessment yet of Washington's waning financial and military support for Ukraine. Without congressional action by the end of the year, so this is, 3 weeks away, we will run out of resources to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and to provide equipment from US military stocks. There is no magical pot of funding available to meet this moment. We are out of money and nearly out of time. So let's just pause there for a moment, because the US can never be out of money, and they can never be out of time either, actually, in that regards, because they have a lot of resources to constantly create new weapon supplies, ammunition and vehicles and everything else, same as Europe. Now, it's not a huge industrialized base like it was a long time ago, but they still have a lot of resources. Now, Europe, if you look at the military factories there, you look at the weapons manufacturing, that has got a lot of issues. They don't really have that same scale. But coming to the most important point here is money, or more specifically a fiat currency, reserve currency status, US dollar. The US can never run out of money. And we'll just use the word money, okay, here. Forget the semantics behind it. But they can never run out of money because the US is the reserve currency. So they can just create, type in numbers onto a screen. They can create more currency. And yes, they can then push that into the supply. A lot of economists misunderstand how they can do this, but they can do it. They can just create that currency and then pump it into the supply. How do you think we saw such rampant inflation, which has caused a lot of issues, and now it's kind of settling down? So if you think about it, it went up like that, inflation, a lot of problems, supply chains, everything else, and now it's coming back down again and it's settling. But you will still see knock-on effects from that currency creation for a long time to come. We're seeing problems with the bond yield. We're seeing issues with the stock market previously. I actually just made a video in the private community, a macro video, where I'm talking about what I think is going to happen with the stock market now. And I called it on the crypto market and things like that, where I said we're going to start to see this movement now. And that's because a lot of the liquidity is going to flow back into assets. And this tends to happen as soon as the last interest rate rise. We tend to see this big flow movement. But not to get off track from the military stuff today, I just wanted to mention that on the financial side. So let's see what else we've got there. Biden's just requested $106 billion in emergency funding for not just Ukraine, but also Israel and the Indo-Pacific. So you've got, and this is the crazy thing, there's never funding for citizens and social programs and all the other stuff, because they said, money doesn't grow on trees, can't just create it out of thin air. Biden actually said that, by the way. We can't just create money out of thin air. And then he says, create some money out of thin air and send it to Ukraine. Now send it to Israel and everything else. There's also a clip, by the way. I don't know if you've seen this yet. It was in Times Square. I can't seem to find this clip. If you find it, please post it below or whatever. And it said, stand with Ukraine. And this has been running for a long time, this big billboard, digital billboard. And what's happened now is it says, stand with Ukraine. And then this big hammer or something hits it down. And then Israel pops up. It says, stand with Israel. And I thought that was the weirdest thing. If you've seen the movie We Live, right, and you've seen some of these movies, it reminded me of that. It's like conditioning people. Okay, everybody stand with Ukraine. Okay, no, get rid of that now. Everybody stand with Israel now. It's like we're seeing this shifting of the media sort of guiding people as to what they're supposed to do. I mean, you would think more people would be free thinking after the whole COVID debacle, but I guess not. Getting back, won't go too off track here. So some lawmakers, especially in the Senate, were backing for Ukraine backing for Ukraine runs deeper, are trying to negotiate a bipartisan deal that would contain aid for Kiev, alongside new immigration and asylum procedures to reduce the number of undocumented people arriving through its southern border. It's interesting they always use undocumented people instead of words like illegal migration or things like that. Again, very, very political with these things. And we just had an article from the UK. So we've had a lot of UK over the last 2 days about this migration, how they're going to cut migration. Actually, I don't think this is going to cut migration at all, this 5-point plan. So they think by hiking the minimum salary from 26,200 up to 38,700 is going to stop all this net migration. It's not. It will not. Yes, it's going to reduce down some dependents, family member dependents that are coming in with healthcare workers and things like that. But what they don't seem to understand is that it's a different culture. You look at some of where the healthcare workers are coming from, maybe it's India and that region, or it's Africa, places like that. This is where we're seeing some influx. And I know because my friend has a company that hires and trains nurses and medical staff. And he said predominantly, when I spoke to him yesterday about this, predominantly they are the 2 regions that the most people are coming from. He said 90% of the ones that he is recruiting and training. So you think about that for a moment, and their families and dependencies and everything like that. Yes, I'm sure there's many family members coming and, well, obviously they wouldn't be working, but is it going to be the way the media is portraying it? I'm not so sure. I think if you look at my walk and talk a couple of weeks ago on the Friday, where I showed the migration numbers, so emigration and immigration, one of the biggest sort of divergence there with the numbers was from illegal migration. I've said the keyword now. Video will probably get some sort of a shadow ban. By the way, people always say to me, Neil, you talk about censorship on your videos, but I can still see your videos. The way censorship and what's known as shadow banning works on YouTube is that what will happen is the video will still get seen by people, but it tends to be the people like yourself who watch the live streams, watch a video every day from me regardless. That is about 45,000 people out of my 400,000 subscribers. Around 10% will watch every single video I put out. That's the key subscriber base. Regardless if you get a notification on your phone or your laptop or whatever, you will go to the channel and you'll look, is there a video today, right? So you will still see the video, but then there's another core group, which is the other 90%, who either won't get a notification or they won't get shown any of my videos in their feed or anything like that. That is known as shadow banning, where you notice the last 2 or 3 videos I've made, I actually said in those videos, these will probably get shadow banned and the view count will be very low because of what I talked about. And you look at the view count, what is it, 45, 50,000 views versus typically it's 100,000 views on average. So that's what shadow banning is, by the way. But getting back then, he claimed 300,000 people who were eligible to come to the UK last year would not be able to in the future. Now, here's a concern I've got with this and why I'm going to say something counterintuitive. I know that many of these 300,000 people who come, some will get work visas. They will be doing the jobs that British people don't want to do. They will be doing the minimum wage jobs that British people just either don't want to do or whatever. We won't get into all of that. So who then is going to do these jobs? That's what I'm wondering now. Who is going to come in? These 300,000 people who are not going to meet this criteria of £38,700. Who is going to do these jobs? That's what I'm wondering now. I think it could be that they're focusing on the wrong thing. They are focusing on stopping with their 5-point plan here. Where is the focus on closing the border and everything else like that? I'm not saying don't help people from around the world. I'm not saying don't help with asylum, but the asylum system is a sham. I'm sure you not all of you will agree with me on that, but a lot of you will. The asylum system is a sham in my view. And pretty much anybody is getting into the country, right? So why not focus on that as opposed to focusing on this stuff? I personally don't see it, but there we go. So getting back, we're jumping around a lot today. We are jumping around a lot. Here we go. Let's go forward, actually. Let's go forward. Okay, White House warns that US support to Ukraine could stop at the end of the month. Presidential downgrades of military aid are dropping, making Putin's bet on Ukraine fatigue a winning one, which is exactly what I said, many of you in the comments said a long time ago. You are not going to beat Russia. Sorry, I know some of you won't like me saying that, but you are not going to beat Russia in this war with a tiny country of Ukraine, massive country of Russia. They are never going to stop. It's just, you know, so when you see all these statements saying the more weapons we send and the more equipment we send to Ukraine, the faster they're going to defeat Russia. It's not going to happen. Sorry, I don't want to offend some of you who, you know, believe the opposite, but it's just never going to happen. It's just, to me, this is logical, rational, common sense. I can't see it, right? Unless everybody, the US, Canada, Europe, they all joined in and they decided then to go against Russia. That's the only way I could see something happening. But then China would come in, and then all the other countries would come in. You get more of the BRICS nations coming in. It's crazy. The whole thing's crazy anyway. Now you look at, see if we can zoom in on this here. This was the commitments then in $1 billion throughout 22, 23. And you can see it's dipping off, and it's been waning in the last 6 months. You can see it's been dipping off in 2023. And this is just charting. If you know how to read charts, you can see this is pretty typical. Go and look at a Bitcoin chart. Go and look at a gold chart. You can see where this is going. It is dipping down. And so I think we probably will start to see this. Now, look at the commitments here in euros by billion. So we have EU financial. What's that? 75 billion in financial commitment, and then a little bit in military. Look at the humanitarian. It's a slither. Same with the US. It's a slither. The US mainly sent military. They sent a little bit of financial, but it's mainly military. But you look down here and you start to see this. You can see now that the public was led astray with what was agreed upon in the first place, which was that it would be predominantly humanitarian aid, and that is just not what we've seen. We also have 3 European countries. This is from what are we on? 3 European countries here: Netherlands, Hungary, and Sweden. Well, Netherlands is pretty obvious. They were going to cut the funding with the new PM there, Geert Wilders, as I'm told his name is pronounced. Apparently I pronounced it wrong before, right? It's obvious he was going to cut the support, but you've got Hungary, Netherlands, and Sweden who are all contemplating withdrawing their support. So we have this going on as well. We also have a massive issue on the border. I touched upon it on Friday. With the Polish border here, there is a lot of problems. It's costing a lot of money. Why are the truckers so angry? It's all to do with market competition. Again, what I'll do, so we keep this a little shorter. If you want to read this, you can go and have a look. Explain why truckers are blockading the EU's eastern border with Ukraine. But in effect, a lot of the Polish have had enough of the one-sided agreement here. Now, I saw a load of this coming out this week. Apparently, Putin is desperate, right? Putin, he is absolutely desperate. So he's telling all the women that they need to have eight children. Look at this. Putin is urging women to have 8 children after so many Russians died in the war with Ukraine. Well, as always, I don't get into the emotion, as you know. I look at it and I say, okay, well, show me the numbers. Let's put all this emotion to the side. Show me the numbers. Okay, about 50,000 Russian men were believed to have died in the war. So some say it's 30,000, some say 50,000. CNN says it's like 100 million. Right? You know, you look at this, you kind of take an average. So you look at the Russian population, 144,233,000, etc. Right. So let's just do a quick calculation here. 144,233,678. We'll divide that by 1,000. Okay, so that will give us 0.1% of 144. Okay, so let's look at 50,000 into 144,233,678. That gives us roughly, someone do it with your calculator at home, that is roughly 0.02% of the Russian population. So apparently Putin is like pulling, well, he hasn't got any hair, has he? But apparently he's pulling his hair out, urging all the women, you have to have eight children because we've lost all of our fighting men have gone. No, it is 0.02% of the population. And this is why I always talk about the media and how just crazy. And people go, oh, have you heard all the Russian men are dead? Putin's telling everyone, you got to have 8 babies because they lost all them. No, they've lost 0.02% of the men. Let's move on. NATO chief, more bad news from Ukraine. Okay, so what's he saying? He is saying that he was asked whether he thinks the situation will worsen for Ukrainian forces in the future after the counter-offensive has been acknowledged as a failure. Well, again, yes, in the most part, there's still, I wouldn't say a complete failure yet, but yeah, it's not going well. We should also be prepared for bad news, he responded. Wars develop in phases, but we have to support Ukraine in both good and bad times. One of the issues we should address is the fragmentation of the European defense industry. I will tell you something about this in a moment. Gone from being enthusiastic supporters and donors to more lately sounding the alarm over dwindling or tapped defense stockpiles. Yeah, they've almost ran out of ammo. Europe has almost ran out. They just haven't got, again, what they used to have, and they don't have the same manufacturing they used to have. So we've heard here, and this has actually been confirmed now, a German official said that if they were forced to enter a war, a major war right now, its troops will only have 2 days worth of ammunition. That is it. And that has been confirmed. When I first heard that, I said, oh yeah, someone's just saying that to, be dramatic. But no, it has been confirmed. They've only got 2 days worth of ammo. So there's a new plan going to be going through Germany. They want to ramp up industrial manufacturing around military. They said that it's been seriously weakened by the shortage caused by the continuous supply of material and ammunition to Kyiv. His comments come as it was discovered nearly half of Germans want to see the coalition government dissolved. We've also talked about war fatigue. This is in the headlines. Still, Stoltenberg and Biden are pressing European leaders to double down and triple down. He said wars are inherently unpredictable, but that we know that the more we, again, here we go, this statement, it always gets on my nerves. The more we support, let's just use the word war here, the faster the war will end. No, because the support is more weapons. And when you give more weapons to one side, the other side ramps up more weapons. I mean, this is common sense. You look at World War I, look at World War II. Just because you ramp up more weapons on one side, you don't think the other side's gonna. I mean, read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I mean, surely that's the most basic book every military commander would read, or Utility of Force, or some of these books. I don't know. I don't know. Some craziness. And then we've also got a lot of trouble at the moment. Venezuela, Guyana, they have just, I think this has just been announced now. Let me just check. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, okay, so the referendum has gone through. Venezuelans approve a referendum to claim territory in neighboring Guyana. This is going to kick off. This is going to get pretty crazy here. Venezuela is home to the world's largest proven oil reserves. I didn't even know that. I did not know that Venezuela had the largest proven oil reserves in the world. So that was a new. I thought they were third or fourth. So that's something new that I learned when I was doing this research. The South American nation of 28 million people should be an economic powerhouse. Absolutely, I 100% agree. Instead, after decades of socialist kleptocracy, Venezuela is an economic basket case. There was a temporary respite in 2022, but the economy is once again in crisis. Yeah, let's just talk a bit more then about all of this. Yeah, so this has been absolute chaos for Venezuela, and we've talked a little bit about Venezuela in the past and what happened there, but I've actually got Venezuelan friends. I saw them today, funny enough, just thinking about it, and they told me what happened. And I remember I made a video a year ago or so, and they told me about the things that they wish they had, and they said, if ever we had a socialist government or a communist government and things like that in the West, what people should have. Like they mentioned gold and food and equipment and anything you can trade and barter, because they said that's what went first. It was all that sort of stuff that they wish they had as the paper became worthless and currency and things like that. Venezuela should be a really wealthy country. And what's happening is Biden is doing some sort of deal at the moment. But I made some notes on this. He's doing some sort of deal. It's probably around the petroleum reserves. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because it's almost empty. And as I said a while back, if he lets that get too low, it's going to cost a lot more to refill it. At the worst time, gas prices are going to go up in the US just before an election, and that's not popular. So all of this stuff is all hitting at the exact same time. Venezuela is, yeah, here we go. So they want to annex 160,000 kilometers within Guyana. It's larger than Greece, the country of Greece. And they say that this is due to the deal with US President Biden, which involves oil exports in exchange for sanctions relief. So I guess I need to do a little bit more research on this to find out, is this, in fact, it sounds like it's too much of a coincidence that it would come just after this new deal with Biden so he can get more oil. I mean, this is how complex geopolitical stuff is. It takes a lot of research. I won't comment too much more on it until I've looked into it properly. But it's pretty crazy. But that is you up to date for today, I think. Yeah, thanks for being online. And yeah, let me know if everything is working well. We're going to rejig the studio a little bit. I want to make some tweaks. I want to move some stuff around. But pretty much, yeah, good. Thanks for being online. Thanks for being subscribers here. And apart from that, take care. God bless. God bless your families. And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. But we may be doing less videos through December. Just while I try and get everything set up, new studio, new house, everything. There's a lot to do at the moment. Very busy time. So I'll do my best, but just to let you know, it may not be a video every single day. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.